Okay, so back out here next morning. I got a bit of a later start than I wanted to. Here a little bit after sunrise, and good news is there was a belted kingfisher on the way in. Bad news is it was tucked away in a bunch of branches and bushes. I did not like that I was there at all. So I did not stick around for that because I knew where that was going. But it is about -5 degrees right now, Fahrenheit. So pretty chilly. But hopefully as the sun comes up, a few things will start to shake loose. So let's head on and see what is out today. Okay, so I think I'm hearing a couple of pine siskin right up here. And they're actually pretty rare this time of year. They typically don't stick around for winter, but it has been so warm, they probably figured it wasn't so bad here, and now winter came in, so I'm gonna see if I can get something from them. Okay, so mis-ID'd the call. Kind of sounded like a pine siskin, but it was actually an American goldfinch. Also kind of rare for this time of year. They typically leave, but it was a non-breeding, so it had its non-breeding plumage on. And the shot, I'm not, it's a nice shot. I'm not totally opposed to it. The things I don't like that aren't working, just to do a little self-critique. Typically, like I've said before, I like being more at eye level. When you're shooting into the sky, there's not really a definitive background. It's just sort of a nebulous sky. So you don't really get a sense of distance. You don't really get that bokeh effect. I've gotten great shots shooting into the sky, but at the same time, if you can avoid it, you want to try to. But it was nice to see something different. And the only other thing about that shot is I kind of wish I was a little more eye level, because when you're shooting too far up, you're getting basically just the bottom of the bird and not really getting a lot of its plumage. But I was able to kind of get around and get the sun at my back, so it was nicely illuminated. And then also, you kind of, if you are underneath the bird, you kind of want to back up a little bit, because it's not going to get your eye level, but it's going to get you more at sort of a not underneath shot, if that makes sense. Okay, so I am in a pretty place right now, and I'm trying to get down to the Snake River in the hopes that we might find maybe some waterfowl or a bald eagle looking for breakfast. And yeah, things are starting to wake up. It's nice to get that goldfinch. We'll see what else is out. So in terms of photography, the winter sun can actually be really magically helpful. And that is because, especially the farther north you get, the sun stays very low on the horizon, and it's kind of situated more to the south. So what that means is that you basically have a low angle light, which helps a lot with having a softer light, and then also having nice long shadows, which you hear about a lot. The reason you don't want like overhead light, like when the sun's in the summer and it's kind of just overhead beaming down and everything, is that it creates really harsh shadows, and it creates a lot more busyness, and it creates a lot of contrast, where you kind of want to have some defining features. So if it's a sunny day like now and it's in the summer, I'm more likely to focus on wider angles because you get more of a bigger picture. When you zoom in too far, a lot of it gets too busy because of all the shadows and the harsh direction of the lighting. So with the winter sun staying low, you get nice long shadows throughout the day. You get a softer light, and it really works out really nicely. Especially here, you could be out at 1 p.m. and still have good light. There's another photographer on YouTube named Simon D'Entremont, and don't worry, he speaks English. He just has a French name. He's up in Canada, but he made a really good point that I watched a few years back that I thought was really helpful, and that is, if your shadow is longer than your height, then you have good photography light. So that's a really good point to keep in mind and use. So in the winter, pretty much this time of year, all day, your shadow is going to be longer than your height. As it starts to get closer and closer to summer, you're going to notice that shadow start to get shorter and shorter. And that is just how the seasons work. Also, it might only be in the single digits, but the other thing the sun does is it warms the hell out of you when you don't expect it to. I would say adequately layered up, and I started this hike pretty chilly. It was in the shade, but that's the secret to keeping warm here in the winter. A, don't wear cotton. All the sweat will stick to your body, and that's how you get hypothermia when it's cold. So wear the right kind of layers, breathable layers, wool, polyester, nylon, things like that. And then the other thing is, once you're moving around and that sun starts hitting you, your temperature is going to skyrocket. I am ready to shed layers, and it's about, I don't know, 5 degrees right now, Fahrenheit. So keep that in mind if you're visiting in the winter. And now, go see what other birds are out here. Okay, so there are 2 bald eagles back there. Probably can't see them on here, but they do look kind of comfortable. So I'm going to kind of just hang out and loiter in the area for a little bit to see if they decide to fly. I can get a shot of them, but there's nothing too dynamic and powerful about the shot. It's a couple of bald eagles in a tree. It's always beautiful, but you never know. But yeah, I always like coming back here. This is the Snake River. This is one of the longest rivers in America, in the United States, and travels about 1,100 miles. Starts in Yellowstone, the southeast corner of Yellowstone, goes through the valley of Jackson Hole, and winds around, comes back up, passes across southern Idaho from east to west, and then in the southeast corner of Washington, it connects with the Columbia River and spills into that. So a beautiful river. What's great about this part is you get this nice braided river. Through a lot of the valley, it has a very braided channel, which you see a lot in Alaska and a lot of Arctic territories where snowmelt really kind of defines a river. So, anyway, that's your little nerding lesson. And I'll hang out here for a little bit, see if there is anything else lurking around. I don't see too much, but a beautiful icy river. So, I will poke around, see what we find. The other thing I forgot to point out about the shot I just got of the bald eagles as well as that goldfinch is that you might notice I shot them both vertically. And that is because they are both at the tops of trees. And when you have a situation like that, when kind of everything's leaning vertically, you sort of want to go with that. Trees especially make great vertical subjects. And if I were to shoot horizontally, in fact, here, we'll just do one just to show you. You don't really get much definition in the tree. It almost sort of looks like the branches are just sort of intruding in on the photo. And you don't really get a lot of clear, really, not to use the same word, but definition or context for that background and the tree. And so by keeping that vertical subject vertical, you sort of give it a better context, you get it better definition, to keep using that same word. There's a better word, I'm just blanking on it. That one just keeps coming to mind. But yeah, so that's just a quick little lesson on when to shoot vertically and horizontally. I've got a whole other video about that. If you want to check more on that, you can watch that. And I will keep scoping this area out and see if any maybe trumpeter swans or waterfowl want to come out. That would be nice. But it looks peaceful, looks quiet. I think everybody's resting, so give it a little bit and see what happens. Okay, so lo and behold, a bald eagle did fly. It is not a dramatic clip because it is flying the opposite way from me, and I'll touch on that in a second. And also, you will notice that I was kind of far away, and that's where I want to make a lot of points. First of all, first and foremost, wildlife ethics. If you are out shooting wildlife, do not encroach on them. No matter what the animal, bald eagle, moose, bear, pika, whatever, they do not know where their next meal is coming from. On top of that, they are out here trying to survive in sub-zero temperatures. In addition, they're trying to raise their young, which are very likely going to be attacked and possibly even picked off for food. So, you cannot tell me that your photo is more important than that. You will never convince me that getting a photo is more important than not stressing out an animal. So, yes, I was keeping my distance because if a bald eagle flies over you and it's close, it's fishing in front of you, whatever, that's awesome. Take advantage. They're obviously okay with it, and they'll go back to what they were doing if they come to you. But if they're just sitting there looking for breakfast, minding their own business, I am not going to go walk up below them. First of all, that shot's not going to be interesting because I'll be right below them. I'm just going to get their belly. Secondly, they will fly away because they want their privacy. And I don't want to stress them out. So yes, I kept my distance in the hopes that they would come flying down the river or something else. And stuck around for a little while and did get a shot of one flying, albeit the other way. But you will notice in that clip, there is a giant nest right in front, right behind where that one flew. And the fun thing about bald eagles' nests, osprey included, is that they can weigh over 1,000 pounds, and yet they will not be strong enough to hold a human baby. How incredible is nature? That fact just blows my mind every time. Okay, so the other thing, while I was sitting there, fairly certain, an American dipper came flying right by me. Never made any sounds, but flew right in front of me. It was small, it was gray, came from the water, went back toward other water, and it's about the only thing I can imagine it was off the top of my head, because I do see them in the winter, and I have seen one in that area. So highly likely that was what that was, but just flew by in front of me, no warning, so I didn't get any shots of it. But anyway, a good little morning with bald eagles, and the sun is coming up, it's warming up, so I'm going to see what else is out here as I start to make my way out, because my stomach's starting to growl and I did not bring a snack. Always have a snack when you go hiking. Alright, let's see what's out here. Y'all, the mountain chickadees are taunting me. They are literally all around me, and I can't see one. They are a little high. They are a little higher up. I also hear a red-breasted nuthatch tucked away in the woods back there. So now I have a choice. I am really hungry, but I also love seeing red-breasted nuthatches. And that would require a lot of post-holing. But hey, let's do it. Okay, there are a lot of chickadees back here, but they are all up at the tops of the trees. So, and the red-breasted nuthatch flew away from the top of a tree. So that's not good. And all the chickadees are high up, so I don't know. I will explore a little back here, because I'm back here, and see if anybody wants to come down and have their picture taken. Okay, so I am back in my car, and I have driven much of the Moose Wilson Road on my way out, and I did see a pair of Steller's jays. They were kind enough to let me park, and then they were kind enough to wait while I swapped out my little lens for my big lens, and then they were even kind enough to let me put on my mittens because that big lens was cold. And as soon as I cracked my door, they took off. So, such is life, but I suppose that is the end of the video, and thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed it, if you haven't already, and if you have any questions or comments, leave them down below, and thank you for watching. See you next time.